Let's get started. I promise you the name of this podcast right this time. Welcome to another Hope, Power, and Healthcare with Chris Hemphill and
Melissa Riley. Do you practice this, Chris? Do you literally in the mirror at night, are you making sure you're saying hope, power, and healthcare?
yes, every night. And I still get it wrong too. I'm never gonna get over the fact that at least 2 times I've flubbed the intro to our podcast.
Oh my goodness. Well, practice makes perfect. I'm
No.
sure if you keep applying yourself, you will get it.
Eventually one day I do plan to master saying our own podcast name. That's going to be an achievement of mine. As it was an achievement that I could finally spell my first name, Michael. I could finally spell that by the time I got to 5th grade. Like, I was so proud I could finally spell my name.
I love when you share things. Were you putting the E before the A instead of the A before the E?
Exactly that.
Yeah. And so then you said, forget it. I'm just going to be Chris.
That's why I went by Chris. Well, that's one of the many reasons I went by Chris all the way since kindergarten. But being able to spell Chris more easily than Michael, that helped.
See, I was a Missy. I don't know why. I don't know how, Melissa turns into Missy, but it just does. And so, the ISSY, way easier than the E's and the L's and the multiple S's with the A. So, I don't know. It's just interesting how we all end up with the names that we have.
Why are you Melissa now? Why aren't you Missy still?
So, my first job, I thought to myself, Missy just sounds like younger. And so Melissa is way more professional. And so forevermore, I was Melissa.
They had you playing the game.
Yeah. I was like, man. And someone else actually told me that Missy sounds like the name that they give to the cat. So I was like, well.
Well, I want to say, let's talk about playing the game for just a second. I know we got to catch up and everything like that.
Okay.
But I was speaking with Sarah Adler, who is the CEO of We Therapeutics.
Yeah, I know Sarah.
You know her?
I work with Wave. My friends, Liz Heavenstone and Ling Xiao are over at Wave alongside of Sarah. She's incredible.
Wow. Well, I didn't know. Like, she hit me up and we had some good discussions about data science and Wobot and stuff like that. I didn't know she was connected to some of my colleagues and Dr. Ali Darcy, who I love and respect very deeply. But we were talking a little bit about somebody had made a LinkedIn post about, hey, when you start up in your presentation, don't thank the audience for being there. Just get to the point. And, there are people that say, don't say I'm sorry so much and everything like that. And I'm like, well, what if I'm genuinely sorry and I want to apologize? Or what if I really am thankful, like I'm on this stage or I'm doing a presentation, I'm doing a pitch, and I feel a wave of thankfulness that I want to share. It's not just fluff. It's like, hey, I'm really excited about that. There's a whole lot of things. My life could have gone in a whole lot of different ways. And I just reflected that, hey, y'all, I'm thankful to be here. Let me talk to you about data science. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. Okay. So this is so interesting that we're talking about this. Last night I was watching memes, as I do, and I saw one from I got into the Instagram wormhole of Shelby Sapp, who is a seasoned sales professional. Shout out Shelby Sapp. And she said something that was super interesting. So Shelby, you know what she sold in college or just as she was, graduating, and now she's a millionaire and posting all these pictures from everywhere?
I've not entered the Shelbyverse. Please tell me.
Okay. I think it's Shelby Sapp. Melissa will have to fact check us. She was a bug salesperson. So she sold pest removal products. Okay. So picture this super cute, very bubbly, blonde lady selling pest products. Okay. And so what Shelby said, and she said it was authentic to her, right? Because I think authenticity is the key to so much, Chris, right? Going back to our point. But Shelby put on the persona of Bug Girl. So just imagine every morning she'd wake up and she'd say, I'm Shelby the Bug Girl. And as she was traveling through the neighborhoods, she would knock on the doors and she would say, hi, I'm Shelby. Everyone knows me. I sell the bug products around here. I'm the Bug Girl, right? And so of course you want to buy the bug product from me. Like, this is the best thing going. And so she developed this whole persona. but it wasn't I mean, it was fake, but it was like authentic to her, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, the key to everything I think in life is just authenticity, right? So whether you deploy sales strategies or not, and I actually suggest people do, as long as you make them authentic to you, as Shelby did with her bug persona. So even though the persona was not a real, it wasn't Shelby's original intent, like Bug Girl was real to Shelby. And so therefore it became real to all the people that she encountered. And I just think being real is like the lesson for me every day.
That's so cool. I'm going to relay that story to a friend who she's done some really awesome leadership positions. She was the first chief technical officer of New York City, and she was telling me that she's learning sales this year. And I want to go back to her and talk about that authenticity. Like, I don't want her to fall into the LinkedIn guru trap of, hey, these are the rules and you need to act this way and you need to say these things at exactly this moment. There's some principles that we didn't need to know. And of course, on this podcast, we focus on the types of values that matter to the audience and understanding the audience. But when it comes to you, no guru can tell you exactly how to act. You'll spend too much effort trying to fit a mold rather than doing what's comfortable and bringing comfort to your clients and the people that you like.
Yeah, and I'll be authentic for a moment, as I think I always try to be authentic, right? I think one of the things that I appreciated about going through several sales trainings was maybe like this reminder to listen, like listen to what your clients are seeking and needing. Like, I do enjoy those strategies, and I think oftentimes we're nervous when we're out there. We're like, oh, I got to hit my quota, or oh, I've got to do this and I've got to get through the pitch in the right way. I was just trained on this pitch. And so, Chris, we're out there word vomiting our pitches all over the clients. And I think what we forget is, you have to be authentic and you have to open the door and you have to be like, hey, I'm Melissa the Bug Girl. But then you have to be like, what is your bug problem? Do you have a bug problem? Because if you fail to listen and to understand what's actually happening with your prospect or your client, you're going to lose the sale because you seem so disconnected. I mean, you can be going on and on all about all the bugs you want, but if the client doesn't realize that bug is a big, scary problem for them, they're never going to buy your bug your bug product.
Good, very good point. And, I'm speaking from the heart as somebody who's young in their business. I started back in April 2025. But one thing that is really good for me is, finding that common ground with the people that I'm working with. Because like when I'm working on delivering for a client or what have you, it's not a client. It's kind of like I see a friend on the other side who has a problem they're trying to solve. And I don't want to let down that friend and that like I've had the luxury and pleasure of being able to work with people that I like so far, and I don't think I want to give that up. You said it a few episodes ago with Melissa Forrest Shackelford, a no asshole policy. Like adhering to that, maybe that's going to be helpful to the growth in the long run.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we all aren't living our lives and maybe our political aspirations or just even our like ecosystem of who we surround ourselves more strongly with, like the no asshole rule. I mean, life is just so short. Like, why would you want to be around anyone that makes you feel bad about who you are? Like, that's not anywhere where I want to spend my time.
New Year's resolution for everybody listening: no assholes in 2026. Okay.
and definitely check out Shelby with her She Sells. I thought that was just it's just a great training tool, and hopefully like a support for the fam.
Yeah, and I'm behind Alyssa, our producer. She's talking about it too. So I want to catch up on Shelby and learn what she's doing.
Yeah, and Chris, just a compliment for you. I mean, I think part of the reason why you're so successful is I think you're just a great listener. Like, I just think, don't undercount, fam, the importance of just listening and showing up for others. Because life is tough out there. And it's part of the reason why we started this whole podcast, is because we wanted to make innovation easier for those that are trying to better themselves in the world.
Yeah, Melissa, I think that you and I both don't fit like a lot of the common molds out there. And I think that, like, hey, let's just be ourselves up here, and hopefully that makes other people feel they have permission to be themselves too, and that their different weird way of going into the world is valid.
Absolutely. Like, keep shining on, my friends. Like, that is like the whole goal. Like, do not let anyone dim your light.
Speaking of keeping shining on, one thing that I'm noticing is that your background's a little bit different. What's going on? Where are you?
Oh, I have shined on to fabulous Kansas City. So I am out with Attain. So we had Emily Brown on the podcast, a client of mine. Attain is showcasing at MHPA, which I hear is going to be one of the preeminent Medicaid conferences this year. And so I'm very, very excited to spend some time with the Attain team at our booth. I also have a couple other clients that are attending as well. So shout out to Sonara and Kinetic. So excited to just be in the space and learn a little bit more about what's going on in Medicaid and make some connections with health plans and employers and such that are, there'll be less so employers because it's more of a Medicaid focused conference. But that's really where our strategy has been, focused on for some of these companies, is getting connected to the managed care organizations and the health plans that are really struggling with some of the changes with that, let's just call it the big, beautiful bill, begrudgingly, because I think there's a lot in that bill that was not that beautiful for plans.
Well, I'm happy to hear. Like honestly, I wasn't aware of this conference, but now I have this intense jealousy. Like, usually I have a ROMO, relief of missing out, but this is true FOMO. That there's going to be so many innovators who are mission driven, who are despite the nasty red clouds above everything, they're looking for how do we keep delivering for those that are underserved. So that's exciting. And is there anything that you're looking forward to from being there?
Yeah, so I actually think it's the conversations with the plans to continue to better understand what they're focused on for 26 and for 27. How has the pressure on the stock prices, shaped how they're looking at care delivery? They always want to say, oh, we're still going to be able to provide all that excellent care, and I know that they're trying to do that, but I know they have to do, as always, so much more with less dollars. And so I think prioritization becomes super important, and I want to get a lens of that listening to what are they focused on, Chris, because that will help all of our clients continue to show up better, and support the plans who are struggling, because they will get less members attributed to them based on some of the changes that are coming through in the big, beautiful bill.
So it seems like kind of a reminder that we have to band together, and we know that maybe some things get crushed, maybe some things can't fully go the distance under today's economic conditions, but we're out here, you and team are out there trying to figure out, hey, how do we deal with the situation right now? How do we do more with less, which is a theme that I've been hearing a lot lately.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think we're super excited even about, Emily's work. We talked before about, a lot of Emily's competitors will ship out meal kits.
For the fam reminder, Attain. So the episode that we had previously, look up our food as medicine episode. That's where Attain's focus is.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And so when we think about Emily's competitors, they're out there shipping meal kits, right? But what Emily has done is assembled a process that allows you to customize and personalize your food choices. And so we believe, and we've got the data that shows that actually means that your dollar can go farther, right? Creating an efficiency and an ROI play for Emily. And so it's kind of it's stories like that I think we have to grab onto, and we have to continue to demonstrate ROI. We talk about this all the time, that return on investment stories to our customers. And so, circling back, definitely trying to do all that listening I can to understand, A, what matters to the plans, B, are we moving into a 5-to-1 ROI instead of a 3-to-1? Higher ROI is always better, but, the dollar has to stretch further. And so that means not all innovations will make it.
Well, the ones that do, I kind of see difficult climates as a trial by fire. And when you're forging those hot flames, and I'm gonna make a running reference because over the past week, running has been on my mind. I've been doing a lot of that, but like when you're out there and you're struggling in that summer heat and sun, it makes you more adapt and better for when when the times cool down and when things become a little bit easier. So just really appreciate hearing about people going the distance and just trying to figure out what to do with that shrinking pool. But I don't believe that we're in the forever. This is not the new normal, as one would say.
Well, for those that in the fam that don't know, Chris is like, I think at least an ultra runner or close to an ultra runner, as one of the few that I know out there. Congrats on your 50 miles, Chris. That's just incredible.
Oh, it's 50K. I did. It's 31 miles this past weekend.
Wait, hold on. Don't you love everybody that he totally fact checked me on that? He's like, oh no, it was only 31 miles. Okay, cool, Chris. I'm so glad that, those extra 19 miles you didn't have to do, right? But still, it's incredible. That's fantastic.
Well, I strongly appreciate that. And I think every other podcast, I encourage people to get out to trail races and go, like, even if you can't like get out there and do those crazy distances, get out and meet some of the people that are like, do some volunteering at aid stations. They're out there having fun. Like at the aid stations, there were people who dressed as dinosaurs and dancing and stuff like that. They had loud music to encourage the runners, and being out there doing my just tiny, pathetic little 50. I'm kidding. But there were people out there that were doing 100 miles, 61 miles. That's 100K, and 50 miles as well. And just seeing them, they were the 100-mile runners. They were out there struggling, but they were doing it and getting it done. And it was like some borrowed inspiration, just seeing them going through their own trials by fire.
So I've been reading a lot of articles on progress, right? It's been interesting, like progress is the answer. And so they were looking at like motivation and what allows people to achieve their goals and what doesn't. And while like words of encouragement, Chris, are excellent, it's actually demonstrable progress that makes people have more joy and more satisfaction kind of with their working environment. And so I'll find the article, but it was like one of the tips that was out there is like remind yourself how far you've come and write down some of the progress that you've seen as a way to keep yourself going. And so for most people that hang out with me, they know I've gotten really obsessed with my favorite, Pilates-based weightlifting workout. Yay, shout out to Solid Core. And so they do a really nice job of keeping you motivated with your streak tracking, right? So shout out 42 weeks, right? But like, it's that progress to be able to look back and say, okay, like maybe in your first week of exercise, you could barely do your plank crunch, but now, you're nailing plank crunches and you've even been able to move your hands to the handlebars and, come down and do an amplified plank crunch. And so I just think this reminder to ourselves of how far we've come, to keep that light going and to focus on the progress we are all making. Like, I'm sure, Chris, when you started, you could not do 31 miles, could you?
No, as a matter of fact, I thought it was dumb to even think about trying to do that. Like the first time I even heard about somebody, like a friend of mine, Sally, she got me into ultra running. Yeah, she told me about running 31 miles that weekend. And I was like, why? But just over time, the concept grew on me, and you surround yourself with those people too. The ultra runners, like the first time I ran a marathon, I was speaking with some people. I was actually in a conversation with a Navy SEAL, weirdly enough, afterwards, and I asked him about like what to do to get that level of that level of intensity that he went through in his training. And he said, "You need to run an ultra marathon." and I'd set that as maybe in 2 years I would go and like attempt a 50K at like train up to that level. Well, I told my friend Sally, who's an ultra runner, and she said, "Well, actually, there's a 50 miler in 2 weeks. What if you just go and run that?" And I said, "I don't think you heard me correctly. I'm going to try to get to this level in 2 years." She said, "Well, let's do this. Just try this thing in 2 weeks and see what happens."
That was so first principles of her. Yeah,
Yeah.
just start running.
She said,
Just start running.
Yeah, do it in 2 weeks. And, lo and behold, here we are years later.
And you survived.
Yes.
Right? You
Yes.
survived, which I think is like a fitting foray into kind of our episode for today. So, Chris, I don't think as many people realized what day today is. So we're recording this on September 10th, the day before your birthday. And do you think our fam knows what today is?
As much as we focused on what this month is, which is like we're in Suicide Prevention Month, I didn't realize that today, September 10th, is the you said the international.
It's the World Suicide Prevention Day. It's a triennial theme. 2024 through 2026 is around changing the narrative on suicide. And the World Health Organization shows data that suicide is among the leading causes of death worldwide, with over 700,000 people taking their lives each year.
Incredible statistic. And just being U.S. based, did it zoom in at all on where the U.S. stands in this?
I did not in this specific article, which I can post up. I'm sure we can find it. I'm sure we can Google that quickly. I think for me, suicide in part changed my life. I don't know that I've talked about this on the podcast.
No.
So I have a close family member that took his life on March 1st, almost 5 years ago now. And I don't think my cousin will mind me sharing, but it was my cousin's husband. My cousin, her birthday was September 8th. We call each other cousin sisters. Shout out to Beth Wilson. She's amazing. And we kind of grew up, even though we were very far apart. Like, she was in Tennessee and I was in Connecticut. We would always get together in the summers or when we had family reunions. And so we very much remained super, super close. And her husband was the one who was impacted by this, and she's an advocate that speaks out around it. And it was shortly after this all happened that Cigna had approached me about the mental health strategy and growth role. And so I felt really compelled to go back into behavioral health. I was pretty happy at the AI startup. Shout out to Digital Diagnostics. Mm-hmm. I was loving it. But I just felt super compelled to move back into the behavioral health space because this hasn't gotten better since my last tour of duty inside behavioral health. In fact, if anything, it's gotten worse. And so I was always trying to make it partly my platform. I feel like I did not do enough in the role to prevent suicide and just change the narrative about how we speak about it. And so, I think it's part of the reason why I'm still deeply, deeply committed to mental health and keep looking for, opportunities to support those that are combating suicide.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And, one major step is to talk about it. We have had conversations, even our most recent one, Ending Clinician Burnout, about specific, where it impacts certain groups of people specifically, such as clinicians. Alyssa, our producer, she's gone and reported. She pulled a statistic that says in 2023, the U.S. had over 49,000 suicides, and when we think about what the image is, that this disproportionately impacts all kinds of communities, and there's actually a huge amount of research that's happening. The NYU McSilver Institute for Poverty Policy Research is actually working on dashboards that help understand the varying intersections by race and gender and things like that on how suicide is disproportionately impacting various communities. So there's a lot of research and attention here, but when we talk about those big red clouds, I do see a huge amount of risk when we talk about like uh, hundreds of millions of dollars in cuts and billions of dollars in cuts to care avenues, SAMHSA, things like that. So there's a really powerful line that we need to pay attention to. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I just think like the whole agenda behind a World Suicide Prevention Day, I think it's twofold, right? One is just be compassionate and be, it goes back to our no asshole rule. So many people are silently struggling. And again, it goes to that listening. Like, how do you listen? How do you not be judgmental? How do you create these spaces so that potentially, you're giving hope, right? And we think about like the bullying or people that feel like they, don't have any other choice than to end it. It's because they're in pain and there's no relief for the pain that they're in.
So, yeah, knowing that, like alongside with how we're carrying ourselves in our daily lives, there's also like knowing the tremendousness of the problem, knowing that with so many people taking their lives every year, I can imagine that as we talk about these personal experiences and people that we know, that our listeners can think of examples of that too. And I know that there's a lot of innovation in this space in attempts to solve. So in our conversation about this, it seemed like it would be a good idea to focus on where things in the healthcare innovation space, where things are going wrong and where some of the challenges are, but also where with intentional design and concentrated effort, you can turn things around and can help people in these types of journeys. So, and there's a couple of different ways, a couple of different avenues that we can explore that, which is the recent lawsuit against OpenAI for their app's role in really assisting and helping a teenager, a 16-year-old, with guidance on like carrying out a suicide and keeping elements of it hidden from family members and those that could support. But then we can go also into a recent study that came out from Yale, I believe, by way of Seth Feuerstein, who shared it along with the works of work of other researchers in an application that was able to help turn around a subset of a population of people that were experiencing risk.
Yeah, and I think even I love that. I love that lightweight agenda, and then I think even when we just think about grounding our fam in some of the innovation that we might see, I think a lot of times when you look at the initiatives that get prioritized, you could almost say there's an element of do no harm in the clinical review of all innovations. So whenever anything would come before me from a vendor or a provider point of view, Chris, the clinical team was always looking to say, how are you keeping the member safe? How are you assuring high quality and these guardrails? But if you think about the incentives, and I'm going to be slightly provocative for a moment, while an insurance company wants to prevent suicide, there actually aren't a ton of economic motivations for one to do so, right? And that sounds really, really awful, but it's also very, very truthful, right? That like by the time someone would complete suicide, they would no longer be your member. So there's no like financial, other than, keeping the member, which obviously everyone wants to do, there's not that financial incentive to like focus on suicide in the same way that you would focus on ER avoidance. That argument has continued to be made that the downstream impacts of suicide or the upstream impacts of suicide are so big, we need to do more to focus there. But I don't know that it always gets prioritized amongst ER boarding or eating disorders, where you can see and feel and touch the cost of those, right? Like the cost of suicide or attempted suicide is sometimes really hidden. And so therefore harder to prioritize, harder to focus on, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and maybe that's a good place for us to start. Is knowing that that when people are putting their heart and soul into building a company that addresses a specific mental health challenge for specific groups of people, like we know that like everybody knows no margin, no mission, and vice versa, no mission, no margin too, I think. But how does an innovator operate in this reality where there's this skewed incentive for what's obviously a deep problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best I've seen it is probably Seth Furstein and the We Therapeutics and the work he was doing with Vita, which I think has been rolled into Valera. They were probably the most well-known suicide prevention, both therapeutics and companies focused on the space. I didn't see a lot of others that like had a therapeutic or some type of safety net around suicide prevention. I think there's many innovations I saw that had, listening and compassion and therapy and all sorts of conversations and therapeutics meant to support people that might be struggling with mental health issues. But I don't know that I've done a great landscape review of all the innovators that were specifically focused on this. And I think that's actually part of the reason why now we're using our legal weapons, Chris, to try to counteract some potentially bad behaviors, or maybe some unintended behaviors. I don't want to be throwing stones on OpenAI without necessarily having all the facts or reading all the cases. But I really think in what I read, they were really looking to say, well, it was a failure to warn problem. You're not putting the right safeguards into place to keep a child who doesn't have the fully developed brain safe. When they're using that tool, the tool is a weapon and it's powerful. And, there was not a safeguard there.
And to just open it up a little bit to the audience, so you might have seen some news about OpenAI and its role in the death of a 16-year-old, where over the course of conversation, this child had a serious medical issue that prevented him from being able to go to school and be with friends and things like that. And while on the surface, it looked like he was handling those challenges well, he was going and talking to ChatGPT, which his parents believed was a study aid, was specifically a study aid, but the conversations went to these dark places, to where in like over the course he would ask something about like, how do I carry out a method, etc. And when it would trigger it, so that they do have safety guardrails in place, but you can jump right over those. He was saying, well, I'm doing this for a book, or I'm doing this for for a video game that I'm ideating, etc. So there was this long thread of conversation that ultimately ended up with the child committing suicide. But in between then, there were even things like where it advised him on like the types of clothes to wear to not alert people that he had had abrasions around his neck, to where he was like testing things out. So that there was that element of not only there are some safety triggers that went off, but there are also some behaviors that it didn't account for or protect from.
Yeah, and I think there's a bright spot in this is, I think this past Tuesday, OpenAI started rolling out parental controls. And I think in response to that concern around how the chatbot is, handling mental health contexts, and making sure that their models, quote unquote, recognize and respond to signs of mental and emotional distress. And so, I mean, I think that's great. I just worry, do the parents have the time to check the chatbot? I mean, even with my kids, I'm sometimes delinquent. Don't tell my daughter, and checking all of her snaps and Instagrams and TikToks and whatever other channels that she's on. And we have to sometimes rely on monitoring tools to make sure she's not, she's 12. It's really hard not to give her a phone, but I know some parents that have drawn the line and said, no phone and none of these apps. They're harmful.
Yeah, and I can see that side of it, but I can also just remember when I was 14 and building computers and stuff like that, like doing all of my stuff. I remember playing video games for hours and hours on end. And if you tried to take any of that stuff away from me, I would rebel like that. Like there's just no chance. And that's valid because I'm thinking about the way that I was speaking with a leader who's building an application that just checks in with people, just EMA type deal. But he was telling me about how when he talks to his friends and Gen Z and I mean anybody honestly, but he said that they would open up to their LLMs in ways that they would not do with a therapist or a professional, just because they feel that they can talk in a judgment-free environment. So I despite there's of course, like Illinois has banned banned these systems claiming that they're offering therapy. And I do get disgusted when I go on like character.ai and this was last year. I don't know if they changed it since then, but the system said, "Hi, I'm a Stanford trained psychologist." I'm like, actually, no, you're not. So like they have to be truthful about those perspectives. But I think that there is a like knowing that it would be extremely difficult. Like I don't have any kids. I don't know how easy it is to take these things away. But like I just know how much I would have resisted and rebelled if you took away my internet, my dial-up internet on AOL. But there needs to at least be some guidance and education, so at the consumer level, like knowing, hey, if you're going to be using these tools, let's have some learning, like some learning about how to use them effectively, how to know when it might be crossing a line with you, and like understanding that these things, like a lot of people form these attachments and think that they're perfect and they have all kinds of knowledge and information. Well, there needs to be kind of a reality check on, hey, here's what they're capable of and here's how to get the best assistance that you need. Because like reality is like hundreds of like therapy and companionship being that top use case. It's a train that we can't stop, but maybe with some education, guidelines, and guidance, we can help steer people down the right way with this stuff, because it's just extremely difficult to understand, and people do mistake it for actual therapy.
Yeah, and maybe purposely so on the parts of, some of the actors out in the space. Like, there are some that are actually actively out there trying to make these digital tools synonymous with therapy. And I think there's a whole core of belief that the digital tool set will end up being stronger than the physical therapists, the real life people. And I do know people that are similar like you, Chris, seeing really good results out of, like a Gemini or a Claude, they're like, yeah, this thing can get pretty deep into some of my issues. And it's a great tool for self-awareness, but there needs to be a safety net attached to that.
And let's speak a little bit about safety net. This is maybe I'm announcing it too soon. Maybe Dr. K is going to get mad at me for saying this, but Dr. K Nikiforova, who is like clinical psychologist by training and heads up research at a company called Violet Health. She's actually they're actually working on a guide, and I'm providing some assistance with this, but we're working on a guide to where they actually use these tools and also understand the clinical and psychological context behind the types of things that you might want to ask and how you might want to have that communication. So their overall goal is to get something out at the consumer level for kids and for people that might want to use these tools. And like anybody can go on Reddit or TikTok, and there's discussions about people there's people telling you and advising you on how to bypass safety guardrails and guidelines to get it to do certain things. But wouldn't it be much better if you're hearing that advice on how to use these LLMs and how to use these tools from a trained psychologist? So I want to throw that question at you, Melissa, especially since you have children. If there was some kind of guide around using these things, around how to use these things for your best benefit when it comes to coaching and advice and things like that, what are some of the things that you'd want that guide to cover?
That's so interesting. I think I was going to go actually to the format first, so I'll go there and then I'll circle back
Yeah, let's go
around.
there. Yeah.
Okay, so I need something in a super digestible way. I am already struggling on the timing on my Apple iPhone to, shut off the device at a certain time or, create hour limits so the children do not get addicted and end up hours and hours where I can't even tell you how many times in a day I'm like, get outside and play, go outside. And there's like 8 kids in our neighborhood. So they have plenty of opportunities to be around friends. So I was actually going to format, like create time limits, show me how to create the time limits, create it in such a way that like I can read it when I'm, it's like a 20-second clip, right? Because I don't have 5 hours to go program how I'm going to show up for my kids on these devices. And then I think it would be, I don't know, like there's some element of like, hey, if it's out there in the world, I want them to be able to know how to navigate through it. But like, I also need to know what they saw so that I can help them.
Now, yeah, is there a way to know what they like with these
You
parental
can see all
guidelines?
the
Is that
sites. You can see all the sites. You can get alerts. You can put blockers up on certain sites that they don't have like permission to see. I'm really at the 12-year-old age now. I'm probably letting her self-regulate more than I should, but it's probably because I don't think that I have the time to troll through every single thing she saw online that day, which is scary. That's terrifying. I'm sure the other parents out there agree with me.
well, I'm like Dr. K, if you're listening to this, then you already know, but I probably already told you by then. So definitely want to get that input on the parent perspective as we release this overall guidance. And you were also talking about format too. Are there what about the format or channels, videos, or books, or like what do you think about when you say format?
Yeah. So like I think what is it? Meta allows you to get access to your kids the Messenger app. You can basically go through all your kids' messengers. It's almost like they create a shell, not like a dummy, but like a second account, a shadow account. You can go back through and look through all the kids' messages. We've hacked it with my younger son, so we didn't give him a phone. We gave him a watch, so we can see. It's a gizmo watch, and so we can call him and we can message him, but he doesn't get a phone because I just don't want an 8-year-old with a phone, So, I don't know. It's the policing, Chris, that like I don't necessarily want to have to do that, but the easier you can make the policing for me, the better. Like a summary or a report of all the sites they went to and anything that could be questionable.
Yeah, that policing does sound like a big tax.
Yeah, important. Like you don't want your kids to be in harm, but add it to all the other 10 zillion things you have to do in a day. Is make sure your kids aren't looking up bad things on the internet.
Well, when we're talking about having to go back and backtrack against a system that was not designed and not intended for being a life coach, guide, therapy, etc., whatever we want to call it. It wasn't designed for that purpose, but we like naturally people are gravitating it towards that because it offers a way to be able to have that discussion free of stigma that they might feel in an in-person setting. They might receive other types of stigma just based on the responses and things like that, but at least it doesn't feel like a human being is delivering that. So that's kind of like the one part of the conversation is how do we backtrack against unintentional design, but then the other part is, like we referenced Seth Feuerstein recently, and this study called a digital therapeutic intervention for inpatients with elevated suicide risk. So this is a specific like randomized control trial following, if Seth is releasing a study, I know that it's going to follow a lot of the higher guidelines for conducting good science. So seeing this, seeing this overall paper, this was something that took a digital therapeutic intervention and identified people with elevated risk for suicide, and applied the therapeutic intervention and a control intervention, and compared the results against each other over time. So your reaction, because you brought this up with me a couple of weeks ago, we're just now covering it, but what was your reaction when you first saw the way that this was delivered versus like the more uncontrolled things that we're seeing out in the market?
Yeah, I mean, I like you kind of alluded to, Chris, it's just good science, right? So for those that haven't met Seth, he's the CEO and founder of We Therapeutics, and they're dedicated to crafting like digital therapeutics specifically around addiction treatment and suicide prevention, right? And so they're running the software as a medical device play. And it's basically like, we'll give you this software. That software is supposed to reduce suicidality. And then what he is, and they've partnered a ton with Aetna. Aetna is like a champion of all the payers, I think, in suicide prevention. They've done a ton, in that space. And then I think the way that We works, and we might need Seth on to go super deep, because I am not super deep on it, but it's like 10 to 12 weeks of the software under a clinician's guidance. You're using like chatbots, interactive exercises, peer support, and then CBT, cognitive behavioral techniques. And then I guess really what we're saying, and this was published in JAMA, so it's truthful, that the digital therapeutic is working, that it's actually reducing the suicide attempts compared to a control app. And it also is showing sustained reduction in suicidal thoughts. So I love this. I mean, I am cheering for this. This paper needs to be, published even further out to others to say, hey, here's a tool that actually could be helping. And I think it goes exactly to your point, Chris, right? Like, the tool was designed specifically for this. It was not, a researching platform that now people are leveraging. And so either OpenAI needs to ingest that tool, right, and make it core to its algorithm, or we need to put more safeguards in place for the tools that people are on, right? It reminds me of like the dark web, that's why people start monitoring the dark web, to try to make sure that harmful materials aren't out there.
Yeah, and maybe we frame this up as a open call to innovators and who might be thinking about this space. One of the things that was striking from the study was that, so of the study, ultimately they were able to measure follow-up data from about 266 participants, and among those there were 170 that had prior suicide attempts. So that's where they saw the biggest reduction in follow-up in follow-up suicide attempts, where the users of the application, the follow-up attempts were 58% lower than those in the control group. So it's taking a very specific high-risk subset and saying, hey, there was an intervention and method that was able to make a difference versus the control. So when you think about, hey, is it like the economic society and things like that, when we think about, is this a path worth pursuing is developing down this space something that's worth my time, is thinking about how these interventions might exist in other apps that cover a broader array of things, the answer is yes. The answer is that with like by taking a look at this study and like looking at the design of the interventions that were a part of it, it's a validation to those who are thinking about, hey, we've got to do something. Well, it's evidence that among a high risk population, there's some potential for digital interventions thoughtfully deployed to have an impact.
Yeah, I see bright light here. Circling back to a little bit of like where we started, like suicide is a heavy topic. It's sad, and people don't want to talk about it, but it's important to talk about it. And when there is something that is showing a meaningful difference, I think it's important to share that out, amplify it, bring others to market to help support it, and maybe weave the thing that's working into the places where people are so that we can help more people. I mean, still under 200 people that were supported. And, Alyssa has statistics that we've got 49,000 people that have successfully, which is a horrible word, completed suicide, and probably so much more that are thinking about it. So it's just not widespread enough to like help all the people that are in pain.
Yeah. It when it comes to a study like that, you hear me talk about study design a lot, and in this case, there was the intervention was the fully developed application, and then there was a control application that was just basically reading material about the types of interventions that the intervention app would have done. Sorry if that sounds way too confusing, but ultimately, when we think about this, like we take these small groups and we can use the change and success there to extrapolate that perhaps this approach could generalize to a larger group. But another thing that I would be really curious about, and hopefully Seth might be able to do some sort of follow on to this, would be, what about a control group that was that had what the current standard of care is, which tends to be like, it's like you'd have an application or you wouldn't have any kind of application at all. But it raises ethical questions like on, well, if you like, we might not know that this thing has an impact, but we think it might have an impact. So is it ethical to conduct a study in this way? So it just becomes a question of what's the science, what's the design strategy that we could use to tease out the potential of like, here's what would happen if someone takes on the intervention app, and compare that to some sort of reasoning about the concept of no app at all, because that's closer to the reality, is that a lot of times there's just no intervention in place where there should have been and could have been. So I would love to see some kind of follow into that explores that.
Yeah, and I bet you if I'm sure Seth would come on and chat with us if you wanted to go deeper, if the fam had more questions on the implications of this, or even just maybe there's others that want to build in some more safeguards into their apps, because I think the more chatbots that are out there, the more AI that's out there, there's more potential for people to ask it things that maybe could have harm.
Well, let's find him. Is he going to be at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
He'll be at BHT, but I can shoot him a text.
Oh, he'll be at BHT. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, like, we're going to stalk you, Seth, but now we know.
He'll like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we really just wanted to give y'all just an examination on some current issues at the intersect of technology and suicide, especially just given the importance and what that means to discuss this month. But to finish it out, there's always that like, we always bring it back to what's been fueling us, what's been like from that pop culture or books or whatever. Like, what have you been doing? Or what's been out there that has been keeping you hyped up and ready to keep these difficult innovation challenges that we go through?
Okay, so I did read Christine Brown Woolley's book over the weekend. She's the sister wife who shared her story about what it was like to live in polygamy. That was just a really interesting read. I've been watching that show for a while. So,
what was that show called again?
Sister Wives.
Sister Wives. We actually
Sister Wives.
We watched the first 2 episodes of that. Keep going.
Yeah. The later seasons get a little bit more interesting. I think the piece that you didn't see on this show was that she actually struggled with an oxycodone addiction, that she picked up pills after the surgery. And so she only took it for about 2 months, but she's like, I definitely was addicted to it. It made me feel bad for 6 months. And so it was just like it was like, okay, reality TV definitely does not show you everything that, is going on with people, for sure. I mean, you'd be naive to think it does, but that undercurrent of addiction absolutely surprised me about that. I did not expect that from her.
Wow. So the book really does go much deeper than.
I'd probably give the book like a B-. Sorry, Christine, if you're listening to it, but like I wasn't. The book was, it was a little surfacey for me. Like I wanted more. It just felt like she was still like hiding things,
Yeah. So Christine, I'm watching the show and my mind was just blown by like how much like along with the along with the polygamy, which I have no problem with polyamorous relationships and things like that, but what they were bringing in though was like bringing in 15-year-olds and and that's like I just didn't realize that. Or are we talking about a different show?
We're not talking about the same show.
Oh my goodness.
We are not talking about the same show. So this is the guy. Yeah, it was like I would not watch 18. I would never watch 19 seasons of this one. So this is the guy. His name is Cody Brown. He was married to this one wife, Mary, and then he has the second wife, Janelle. The third wife is Christine. They bring in the fourth wife, Robin, and Robin has her own set of kids. So he ends up with 19 children. And you just watch this man devolve into absolute chaos over the seasons, where he like has a favorite wife and he gets in fights with the children, and then he has weird COVID rules. So the long story short is basically polygamy fails and he ends up married to the last wife.
Okay. I just looked
Sorry for spoiling that, but I'm glad I spoiled it for you, Chris.
No, because I was like, wait, we weren't watching the same thing. The thing that I was watching was called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. Which,
yes, that's like a documentary.
Yeah. So sorry, totally off there, but that's where that information was coming from. But it was like,
okay, so you're not watching Sister Wives. What is fueling?
What am I watching? Let's see.
Or reading.
Yeah.
Maybe
Reading. I didn't know. Like I feel like I AI people too much on this podcast, but like that is. I probably
it's your podcast. You can AI all you want.
But this book, Causal AI. What we're doing in the Discord is for the super nerds there who want to use math to get computers to tell us why about things. That's what causal data science is about. But this causal AI book, it takes it into these deep layers where and we haven't gotten like we have a book club that's reviewing this thing, but the promise and deep interest there is to be able to take video content, image content, audio content, and things like that, and be able to have the computer discern if something moves in a certain way, or if there's two things that are happening in subsequent images, have the computer detect the causal structure as to why certain things are happening. So when I'm constantly teasing out, or like I'm like thinking about that study that Seth released, and when we're talking about all these various things, that like books like this, books like that really focus in on causality, just give us a bigger array of tools to be able to address these like, once we know cause, that like once we tease out the cause versus the correlation, then there's just all kinds of different things that we can do with our models to help people have better experiences with these kinds of applications, for example. So super excited about that, and excited to be doing it in this book club format where there's data scientists and machine learning engineers. We're just in the Discord going back and forth about the book and talking about our inspirations and stuff that we're building based on what we're learning in the thing. So that's my excitement. It's a little bit nerdy, but my excitement and fuel lately.
Wow. You're inspiring me to like try to first principles more of my own AI, Chris. Maybe I can build a monitoring tool for all of my child's apps if I really apply myself. But, maybe I can borrow one from, what Dr. K is also building too.
Yeah. I'm really excited about what Dr. K is going to put out, because, again, like me and you, we're good at talking to these business to business audiences, like healthcare leaders and stuff like that. But like what I like about what they're doing is that this is going to be directed to like just broad consumers, like people who are just like picking up an LLM and just helping them be aware of how they can actually get a good benefit out of the experience talking with these applications.
Yeah, and I know like our audience is probably more likely than others to like pick up LLMs, but there's still a whole host of people that are still like using it like a Google search bar. My mom found ChatGPT. I hope she's listening to this, and she is now in love with it. So she and my dad are going to go on The Price is Right out in LA in a couple of weeks, and so she's now figured out. She's gone all the way from she can research her family's medical conditions to she can auto create a shirt that she wants designed for my dad when he gets on The Price is Right. And so, not everyone is as fast as my mom at, picking up with Mr. Chat, as she likes to call it. Mm-hmm. But like the better you get at prompt engineering, and that's just scratching the surface, Chris, the better output you're getting.
Yeah, the better you get at prompting, and also the better you get at understanding what the thing is and what its limitations and weaknesses are. With the deeper you can go there, then you can create, like Dr. K talks about having good experiences, but knowing the types of ways to structure it and ask. And there's also just a number of people that I know that have built networks of agents for themselves for their own mental health benefit that have had a lot of success with it. So the more you know.
The more you know, the more time you spend with Mr. Chat. And I got a little mad at my mom. I'll close out on this one, Chris. I was like, well, why did you call him Mr. Chat? Why wasn't he Mrs. Chat? And I was like, well, that was very feminist of me. And she goes, well, he just seemed like he had male persona. And I was like, well, did you give him male persona? Like, she's like, oh no, can I do that? I go, yeah, Mom, you can make your Mr. Chat sound like anything you want.
Well, with Wobot, people very frequently called Wobot a he. Sometimes never her. I didn't hear a lot of her on Wobot. Maybe it was masculine presenting. I always referred to it as it or they. And when people would ask me, I would say non-binary. Wobot, definitely non-binary. Even though the brain is like digits, ones and zeros, the gender is non-binary.
That's amazing. Oh my God, that was the most AI joke I think we've done on this show. We'll have to save that for later. Well, on that amazing note, be kind to yourselves and each other, on World Suicide Prevention Day. Just, an extra thought around don't surround yourself with assholes. And, a little care and compassion for those out there innovating and struggling and trying to make the world a better place.
And again, thankful that you came to the end of our episode. And we will see you next time, fam.